Hey, good evening, everyone. Welcome to a special edition of Bright Lights tonight. We pre recorded it to accommodate our very special guest tonight, Coach Larry McKenzie, work around his practice schedule and things like that. So, coming to you live from our studio here in North Minneapolis. As always, another blessed day in the hood. Uh, we ask that you go out to LaceyJohnson.com, subscribe, like, uh, click the bell for notification, and donate as you see fit. And also, we have a souvenir store. In fact, my little bright lights cup here so you can see it. Yeah, got a bright lights cup, t-shirts, and things like that. So check that out. Once again, our special guest tonight is Coach Larry McKenzie, and we're going to talk to him shortly. As you know, I normally do a little what happened this week kind of a thing before we get started. And I guess this week, last night, I had dinner with a friend and author friend of mine, and somehow we got into a conversation on our all-time favorite athletes. And since this is dealing with basketball, I thought I'd rehash my all-time favorite athletes right quick. Uh, Baseball, Reggie Jackson. Just every time I saw him, his style and the way he hit home runs and his reaction in baseball. In football, Jerry Rice, fellow Mississippi person, went to Mississippi Valley State. I was an Alcorn person myself because I live 40 miles from Alcorn and Natchez, and we used to play their homecoming every year, our marching band. So I had a good feeling towards Alcorn, but I had heard of this Jerry Rice and Coach Coach Cooley. They called him the gunslinger, and the quarterback Willie Towden. And I finally had a chance to watch them one time, and it was just amazing. In fact, it was the greatest football performance I'd ever seen between Towden and Jerry Rice. So that was very memorable. So Jerry is my all-time favorite football player, and then of course, and this is basically where I'm going to before we bring on the coach. My all-time favorite basketball player now, my new all-time favorite basketball player, it's been for the last 4 or 5 years, is Steph Curry. I just love watching him play, and I just love watching Golden State play. And I just remember back in the 2014, I guess 2015 season, the year he was unanimous MVP. I watched every game, every minute of every game, and I'll just put it this way: uh, the greatest basketball shot I've ever seen was the shot Michael Jordan made against the Lakers, where he went up like he was going to dunk it, changed his mind, switched it to his left hand, underhanded it, and with English scooped it off the basket, and it went in. But here's the thing about Steph that I love and what made hook me on him. Every game I watched, especially at the MVP year, unanimous MVP year, he'd hit at least 2 or 3 shots I'd never seen anybody hit, and I don't think I'll ever see anyone hit those type of shots ever again after Steph. So it just his skills and the shots that he made just made me a fan and love to watch him. And of course, Golden State, the style that they played, the unselfish style, the passing, the assists, and so that's what we talked about. Uh, and so that's my little all-time favorite sports people, players. And if anybody got any comments on any of that, you think anything is better, I'll probably talk to our guest tonight offline somewhere over who's the best all-time. Except as I get older, I try to stay away from that phrase because there's so many other variables. Unless you're talking about individual sports like tennis and golf and stuff like that. If it's team sports, there's so many things that go into it, and I probably to get into Bill Russell and Michael Jordan and Steph Curry and all that type of stuff. Enough of that. Just thought I'd share that with you. Our little conversation over dinner last night. Now, tonight, I have Coach McKenzie here, uh, and I'll just give you a little introduction. And, to be honest, I've been knowing this gentleman for a long time 30, 40 years. We were neighbors, frat brothers, friends. I think it's safe to say he's a confidant. I got about two or three people that I just, whenever I need advice, I go to, and he's one of them. Felton Smith and a couple other people. Always level-headed, always thoughtful, always strategic. Uh, my coach McKenzie, he's a coach, of course. We'll tell you about that. Author, educator, motivational speaker. In fact, I had him speak at one of my corporate events, and people were tears in their eyes during his speech. He's been a KARE 11 winner, 11 Who KARE winner, Minneapolis Park Board Volunteer of the Year, Positive Image Father of the Year, and we might talk about his son, Lawrence McKenzie. He was my all-time favorite high school player. In fact, I thought he should have won the year Chris Humphrey won, but he came in second place there. Went on to play at the University of Oklahoma, University of Minnesota, play some pro ball. So we'll talk a little bit about that and the special relationship between him and Lawrence. He's a Bush Fellowship recipient, NCAA living legend. And I guess we get into, he's a member of the Minnesota Basketball Coaches Hall of Fame, the first African American that was elected to that, and well deserved. And listen to this: this gentleman has won 6 basketball titles, high school basketball championships, included 4 straight. And he's had some of those teams that, a team that you look at and you say, look, even if they play their worst and the other team play their best, they're still going to win. So he's had a couple of teams like that. I've had a chance to see him relate to the young men that he coaches. I've had a chance to be in some of his practices. And if you ever go there, you will see why they win. He's just a special guy, special relationship. And what I love about him is the impact that he's had on the children's lives that he coached. I could go on forever for about all the things that he's done, and he's earned it. He's worked hard for it. He's been committed, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But now I'm going to introduce my guest, family man, fraternity brother, friend, confidant, and I'm just a big supporter of Coach Larry McKenzie. Welcome to Bright Lights, Coach.
Thank you, Lacey. Thank you for having me, man. Honored to be your guest and participate today. And man, I tell you, that was quite the introduction there. So,
Well, you deserve it, man, because I've been knowing you for a while. I've observed you. I've observed your habits, your discipline, your goal settings, and all that stuff, your commitment. And to be honest, a lot of times you set example for me to follow. So I really appreciate that. Coach McKenzie, tell me about your childhood, where you're from, where you grew up, the type of influences that you had in your early life.
well, I mean, I'm the oldest of 4 kids. It's 2 boys, 2 girls. The 2 girls are in between the boys. Just so happened we both happen to be coaches, and had to put this in that my younger brother just won his first state championship in Alabama. Last week, 2 weeks
Oh,
ago
wow.
now.
Hmm.
But so I grew up in Miami. Um, Interesting story is my parents met on the campus of Florida A&M University. Um, I was the product of a teen mom, and so my parents uh, ended up dropping out of school, moved to Miami. Struggled for a few years. Were determined not to. Just first of all, just in terms of influence, right? Determined not to give up in terms of their goals, what they both set out to do when they went to college, and both went back to school. My mother taught elementary school for 32 years. My dad became a special ed teacher and taught special ed in the urban community within blocks from our house for 32 years. And in addition to being a special ed teacher, he also worked after school on the park 3 blocks from our house. So coaching and influencing young people in the lives community. I mean, I'm finding out so much about the influences in the lives that he's impact. Now that he's gone, when I talk to people that we grew up with, stories, things that he told them, that kind of thing. So, and then I spent time between there in a small town, 4,000 people, Walterboro, South Carolina, where my grandparents lived. My grandmother was a female minister. And the person that I would probably say had the most influence on my life. It's interesting because me and my mom was just talking about it. When I was born, I mean, my grandmother obviously thought my mom wasn't quite ready yet for motherhood, and so she took me as a baby for a number of years, and my early years was spent with my grandmother being raised by my grandmother, and then later I would, as my mom had other kids, I would be reunited with my mom and dad. But it's a little bit about my background. So yeah, that's
Yeah. Well, a couple of things. You mentioned your brother. I know. I think he quarterbacked at Jackson State. Am I correct?
he did. He was a starting quarterback at Jackson State, and he's in the Jackson State Hall of Fame as well. Had a heck of a career at Jackson State. He also started his coaching career at Jackson State as a graduate assistant before spending 30 years coaching in the MEAC and the SWAC and the CIAA of college football, and then eventually taking this opportunity to coach a high school where he's also he happened to be the athletic director.
And just as a quick, I guess, diversion here, there's been some big news at Jackson State here recently with Deion Sanders. I think they're in the championship game sometime soon.
Yeah, this
Uh,
weekend, Celebration
this
Bowl.
Celebration Bowl. But I think the news that I saw where they had actually uh, gotten a 5-star recruit to decommit from Florida State to attend Jackson State, and that's a good trend. And I've listened to Deion Sanders talk about his commitment to Jackson State and the city of Jackson. So, what do your brother? Have you talked to your brother about all the exciting things that's going on down there?
Yeah, I mean everybody. I mean, of course, being an alumni, everybody's excited about what Dion has done for Jackson State, and beyond this, it's beyond Jackson State. His influence on black college football, if I could say, has been major. You see other universities looking at hiring different, but Dion is just one of a kind, and I'm praying that the commitment is a long term commitment. I mean, he's brought
Hmm.
major changes to that university. He's shown when you put the right people in place, what can happen. And I'll be honest with you, I attribute a lot of that to him being a godly man as well. But I could just tell you, I mean, I'm a big fan. I'm watching his Instagram every day. I'm following him. I love his messages. I love what he's doing with those young men. Yeah, so excited and wish I could be at the Celebration Bowl,
Yeah,
which is
and
sold out.
oh, it is.
Yeah,
I would guess it is. And looking for, is it going to be on TV? Because I know Dion helped bring
ESPN.
HBCU.
It will be on ESPN. Yes, sir.
And then one last thing, I think I heard. Well, two things. Dion, they're already trying to uh, get him away from Jackson State to other major programs. I think I heard. And then another HBCU hired Stu Jackson. I
Hugh
think
Jackson.
Hugh Jackson. I'm sorry, Stu Jackson.
Yeah,
That's a basketball guy. Hugh Jackson. Which HBCU was that? Do you
Grambling.
Grambling? Okay, good, good, good. So that might be a trend that's going, and hopefully we'll see a lot of 5 and 4-star, 3-star athletes going to these HBCUs, and we may even look up one day, and we might as well have a vision, is that an HBCU will actually be in the team playoff, college football playoffs for one of these
Well,
years.
it's certainly possible, Lacey. And I mean, one of the things, first of all, let's remember that, pre Deion Sanders, coach by the name of Eddie Robinson, who produced so many pros and great athletes who are now NFL Hall of Famers. So, I mean, there was a time, right,
Hmm.
that, pre ESPN and major TV money, right, that the schools played a major role in HBCUs played a major role in producing, professional athletes. But I think one of the things that Jackson State has shown people too, that you got to put your money where your mouth is. You get what you
Yes.
pay for, right?
Yeah.
And so they were willing to take some risks,
Hmm.
invest in Dion, put some, what I'm saying, pay him a competitive wage, so that he would, put him in position to compete. And,
Right.
and
Right.
so I'm hoping, now that uh, we begin to see our own value and worth in these kind of opportunities, and the other HBCUs who are already followed. I mean, Tennessee State, a number have gone out and gotten other professional athletes. But Dion, I tell people, I mean, Dion is, pre-coaching two things. One, Dion came to Jackson State with coaching experience. He had
Yeah.
been involved coaching high school and prep school football. So he wasn't just some celebrity that they hired. And I think people got to be a little bit cautious of that, just going out
Right.
to get a name. But he
Right.
also was a major marketer
Right. Right.
as well. And so Dion is just taking all of
Hmm.
his talents, and
Hmm.
using them to benefit Jackson State and HBCUs.
Yeah, and just quickly, because we got a lot to talk about here. Coach, the gunslinger, Coach Cooley, down at Mississippi Valley State, when Jerry Rice was playing there with the five wide receivers and empty backfields, and that was very innovative. And eventually, that caught on. So you're right; they've contributed a lot to the world of professional football by some of the things that they've done in college football. So Larry, so you had a childhood. Tell us about your current family. I talked about Lawrence earlier. I know your daughter Rashida played basketball also,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
you've just been a great
Yeah.
dad all the way around. So why don't you
So,
tell us?
so obviously, married, and
Mhm.
um, proud of the support that. So this is my second marriage, and so just been blessed tremendously in this relationship. I'm the father of two. Rashida Ogenride lives in DC, and Baltimore to be exact. Entrepreneur, doing really really well. Super proud of her as a dad. And then I have a son, Lawrence McKenzie, who played for me, Lacey, and to this date, we're the only father-son combination in the history of Minnesota to win 4 consecutive titles together. That is special and will always be special for us. I mean, it's a different kind of bond that we've been able to develop that way. And then now I've been blessed to be the grandfather of four beautiful granddaughters. I call them my McKenzie princesses. Kyla, who's 11. She's the oldest. I have Lauren, who was soon, matter of fact, as of tomorrow, she'll be 9 years old. Uh, actually, 10 tomorrow. And then there is, um, how am I? There's Maya. Maya is 7, soon to be 8. And then Olivia, 6, soon to be 7.
What a blessing! I have to share with my audience that my favorite uh, athletic event to watch is high school basketball. Great high school basketball game with the gym rocking and the young people and things like that. And where I'm leading to, uh, the days you Coach Henry, that team with Pettis and just all the great people you had on the LB and that team. I could come watch them every year, and every year you just have a great team. And that was a tough team for anybody to beat. Now, how many? That's the one you won the 4 straight championship with, right?
That is correct. And let me just say this, Lacey, while I have you here publicly.
Mhm.
I mean, you and Betty, like there are people that can say, I knew you win, right?
Mhm.
And before I won any championships, before I won any games, I mean, you and your wife, Betty, have been major supporters of me and my work, and have always supported our basketball team. I mean, and again, like you say, we go way back, but the support of myself, the mentoring, the time, obviously you don't talk about your involvement with the basketball program. But I love to teach my kids chess. You've been a volunteer chess master for our kids. You guys always travel for the team. I've always, wherever I've been, considered you all as part of our basketball family. So let me just take the opportunity to thank you for your
Right.
support, and not just somebody, somebody who say pat me on the back and that kind of stuff, but I mean, not just with your words, but financially.
Yeah.
You all have not hesitated to support us and in the work that we've been doing with these kids. And so, all of those great accomplishments that you talked about in the introduction. I mean, I've been able to do those things because of having people like you in my circle. And for folks that are listening, your circle is one of the most critical things that you have. And so when Lacey talks about friends and confidence and people like that kind of stuff, so just want to take the opportunity to say thank you.
I appreciate that, Larry. I'm almost blushing here. I never, because we just do it because you're doing such a great job, and we love the kids, man, and what you're doing, and we're going to get into that a little bit. I would also like to, aside from those Henry teams, you had that North team, man, with Tyler Johnson and Jamil. I think I got his name right,
Jamil
and
Jackson Jr.,
Patrick
Pat
Dimley.
Dimley,
I
yeah,
mean,
I mean that
I'm like, somebody's
Odell
going to beat this
Wilson,
team.
Isaac
Odell Wilson.
Johnson.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Whew.
you're right. I mean, and the thing to think about is that'll be a special team because, as you know, Lacey, when I went to Minneapolis North, the school, I always tell people, school was on life support. You know what I'm saying? The basketball program, along with everything else, had reached a fairly low point. And when we got those kids were the kids that decided to stay in the community, go to school, 68 kids in the building. And the interesting thing is, unlike all the other, great teams that I had, there was no guys ahead of them. So they had to grow up, they had to become leaders. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
when I got them as sophomores, that was the oldest group in the building.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So there was nobody to look to learn how to do it. So those guys set the foundation for what we're doing right now.
And you did a great job, and we enjoyed every moment of it. Uh, I especially enjoyed Tyler Skywalker. I don't know whether people know Tyler Johnson was such a Skywalker, man. I just remember some of those dunks that he had. But anyway, you've given us a lot of great experience, and I think you must have a pretty good team this year again, Coach. Uh, Minnehaha Academy was ranked #1 in the state when you beat them last week, right?
Oh yeah, but I always tell people, man, Lacey, one thing that uh, nobody you have to roll up your sleeves and go to work, man. Nobody ever voted anybody a state champion. So I love the rankings. I was very, to be honest with you, starting this season, and we've got a good team. I
Right.
was glad that we were ranked #3 going into that game. Obviously, motivation since last March,
Right.
right? Because this was a team two that moved down after winning a couple 3A championships. They decided to move back down into our space, right? And so
Okay.
we took that a little personal.
I like that idea about taking it personal. I do know you have a tournament coming up this weekend in Sioux Falls, and Betty and I normally go on there with you, but we unfortunately we won't be able to make this one. But I think you go to Chicago every week of February during Martin Luther King Day. Is that still planned for?
No,
Uh,
yeah. So the high school league restriction hasn't allowed us actually
oh,
to
gotcha,
travel in a couple years, and so that's just we've not participated in that. So and this tournament is this is the high school version of the Naismith Hall of Fame uh, Classic,
Oh,
and
right.
so we were honored to be included and participate in that. And so we're playing a Chicago team, Chicago Simeon, who was voted the best team, uh, the top team in history coming out of Illinois. They've been a very successful program, much like Minneapolis North, who happened to be voted the top program in Minnesota history. So we get a chance to go battle them and be on a national stage this weekend. And so we're excited to have that opportunity.
Well, Coach, I'm gonna let the audience in on a little inside story here. I always thought I was a pretty good ball player, and I remember the one game in my life I remember losing is to you, 1-on-1 over on Lindale. Uh, I still I still got that on my mind, man. I can't get over that one, Larry. And in fact, I say this, and people find out that's the one bad shooting game I can ever remember. But here's the thing: you were a pretty decent player yourself, and high school, and tell us a little bit about your
Yeah, I mean,
athletic exploits.
I grew up in a basketball family. I mean, growing up in Miami, everybody knew my dad. They call him. I mean, we call him Pops, but his friends call him uh, Applebite. I don't know why or that kind of stuff. But he was known as being, he was a real high school legend in Miami, playing at Booker T. Washington High School.
I never
Then
knew that.
then his younger brother, my uncle, who we just buried a few months ago, Stan McKenzie, came along. He played basketball at Miami Northwestern High School. Went to NYU. Won at that time they won the NIT in 1965, which was the NCAA championship back then. He was drafted, went on to play 7 years in the NBA. So I grew up in a basketball family. Was a pretty good basketball player in high school, and then came to the Midwest and played for NAIA at the time over at Wisconsin River Falls. Had a had a challenging career, not because of my talent, but because of my attitude. And then coming out of that time, I tell people we grew up on the tail end of the civil rights movement, so carrying some of that stuff with me. Didn't quite work out. But I always tell people, Lacey, when I reflect in my college experience, it was actually God preparing me to be in this situation where I am now. He was preparing me to coach the young men who I was
Right.
at the time. And I always say, there's a reason for the season. And that was what that season was about, is preparation for Coach McKenzie to coach other young men, much like himself, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh. Well, I've seen some pictures of you with your fro and your high school uniform, and just to wrap up our little thing, where I'll never get over it. I just remember you just took me in the lane every time. You
Yep.
never took it, and you had a quick shot, and you could get the shot off before I knew it. So I want our artists.
Lacey, I mean, back then in those days when I was really cocky. I mean, I don't know if you remember, but I would tell people I'd play you to 11, give you 10.
I remember all that, Larry, and I do remember too. And we're going to talk about this in a little while. When you were director of the hospitality house, we had we had the best high school basketball player, period, at every grade level as part of that hospitality house team. And I heard where you old guys played these guys, and beat them.
Yeah. We because again, I mean, the older you get, man,
Right.
it really isn't about athleticism anymore,
It
right?
isn't. Right.
It's about outthinking them and the importance. And I just tell you, and it's funny because I mean, as you get older, I mean, you can't out jump it, but you know how to rely on boxing out and
Mm-hmm.
set screens, and they don't want to be physical and all of that kind of stuff. And yeah, Lacey, I mean, again, that was one of one project that we did together when I was at Hospitality House. We created a national program, right, with Adidas sponsorship. We created Team Minnesota, and if you think about, we had many of the kids that played for me at Henry, along with guys like Allen Anderson, who played in the pros, Longa, a number of guys, Mo Hargrove, that end up having extensive careers overseas, right? All of those
Right.
guys came out of our youth program.
Yeah, and one of the guys, because besides Longo, we had is it Bryant that was drafted first round by the Celtics? I think it was one of
Yeah,
the people on that team.
Patrick O'Brien.
Patrick O'Brien,
Yep.
and you just remind me of Longa. He ended up going to Oklahoma with your son Lawrence also, and he had the most hellacious dunks I've ever seen in my life down at John Marshall, I think down in Rochester, and
Yep.
I'll never forget that game. Speaking of Lawrence, how old was Lawrence before you lost to him, Larry? Do you remember? I'm certain Lawrence beat you eventually beat you because he's very talented. How
I,
when did that
I,
happen?
I, I remember it like it was yesterday, Lacey. You know, we lived across the street from you. And I think at about, uh, so he was 11 years old. I think he was maybe, had to be at that point about seventh grade. And you know, Lawrence worked on his trade a
Yes, he
lot.
did. Yes, he did.
And basketball is one of those things that if you don't do often, so my jump shot by the time I played him wasn't quite as refined when I played you. And so I think it was like seventh or eighth grade. Um, but before that, I took him out there, and I would and it's funny because I also did the same thing. My little brother, we'd go to 21, and I'd beat him 21-0, and his mom would get upset. Why are you doing that to that little kid? You know what I'm saying? But again, part of growing up, nothing comes easy, right?
Right,
And my
right.
dad did that to me. So some people these days, somebody might listen to him might say that that's child abuse, but
No,
it worked for me.
that helps. And my son Adrian, and he got to the point where he could shoot a little bit and handle it a little bit. He wasn't as good as Lawrence, of course, but to this day he never did beat me. He got close a couple of times, but I had to pull out the old school stuff on him and put him in his place. So
Well,
Lawrence is
Lawrence is a record holder still to this day at Oklahoma and Minnesota in terms of 3-point shooting. So
I used to
that,
love to see
that
him
tells you
play.
the level of his skill, of his ability. So
We talked about Hospitality House, and you and I worked there together, and some of the great things that we did in working with gangs and the after school program. And by the way, for the audience and to you, and I think I text you, I found out because my sister passed away, and I was in Houston, and I got back late and found out Dr. Foster, who headed up the after school
yeah,
program at passed, and it just hurt my heart. I wasn't able to make it to her service, but I would say to you and to our audience, Dr. Teresa Foster, who ran the after school program at Hospitality House, is one of the most beautiful people I've ever met in my life. I mean, she just had a spirit about her, and there wasn't a mean or hateful. I mean, all the human frailties and faults we find in people, she had zero of that in her, and she will remain one of my all-time favorite people. And I got some recent stories about her. Why don't you tell me
yeah.
a little
Well,
bit about
listen,
Dr.
like you said, man. I mean, I don't even think I could even begin to describe the words around the the beautiful things of who Dr. Foster was. First of all, and I happened to be in Baltimore that week as well, so I was not able to go to her homegoing. But as you said, I mean, she'll always be somebody that I celebrate. I mean, one and first and foremost, Dr. Foster was truly a godly woman, and with that, you don't have to say much else. And I don't think she made a move or did anything without prayer or counseling and that kind of stuff. And her spirit in the way that she dealt with children, right? I mean, if you the love that she poured out I mean, and it was just, you were there, you were the program director, so you saw the kids that we had, right? And some of the challenges and trauma and other kind of thing that they would be bring in the building with them. But they would come into that after school program, and Dr. Foster for whether it was 30 minutes or whatever long, however long they was in the building, she had this ability to make it all go away,
Yeah,
go away. And I mean, she was an angel here on
yes,
earth.
she was. I like, and we can discuss this after. We should have some type of memorial somewhere for Dr. Foster. I mean, that's
Yeah,
how
yeah,
special she was.
and I do, and I want to say this too, Lacey. While I get this opportunity, I
Mhm.
mean, she was special, but I always say this to you too. I'm gonna have to do this sooner than later. I think that we need to honor Glenn Johnson.
Oh yes.
I mean, because
Ooh,
that's another
yes.
angel here on earth, somebody that we need to give flowers to. Those two women right there, uh, man, not only young people, right? But again, my life and there are times, as you well know, man, like being a man, there's only so far and that you can go when it comes to some of that stuff that these kids need. And both of those
Mhm.
ladies have that innate ability, right, to be able to give that. So definitely we need to and maybe Lacey, while we're on air talking, maybe we give Glenn the first Dr. Teresa
Teresa
Foster
Foster.
Award.
I agree. I agree. And I was thinking the other night. I was at a banquet the other night, and I got to the stage in life where I don't like banquets, and I'm sorry if I take that the wrong way. But one type of banquet I would love to see us have, and just a banquet for unsung heroes like Glenn and like Dr. Foster. I mean, we go to a lot of banquets where famous people are recognized, but there are so many people out here that we know every
Right.
day just putting in the work, get no recognition for it, and they're just doing it because that's the type of person they are. And when you talk about Glenn, my sister, I mean, she's just done miracles with the young man, and
Miracle.
just about every one of them played for you, I think.
Yeah, just
And you
about
have,
all
yeah,
of them they did. That's what I'm saying. I know firsthand.
yep, and they won championships with you too. So let's follow up on that, Larry, because we really got to do that. That's something near and dear to my heart. The other thing I remember about the hospitality house, and really, it's connected to some of the work I'm doing now. It formed who I am now. It's just working with the gangs there, and just to walk into a gym and there's 200 gang members sitting there and they're just quiet and paying attention. And you remember Jimmy, the late Jimmy Stanback, and Thomas Dixon, and all the people that we work there, and the chance that and once again, uh, as you know, I got a company called UBX, and we're trying to bring some business to North Minneapolis. But what I tell a lot of people, it started uh, at Hospitality House when we're trying to get some of those young men off the streets and things like that, but we didn't have jobs for them. And so that led to where I am now, trying to bring these jobs into the city. Where once we go out and talk to them, because most of these young men don't want to be out there, and we know that. So that was the beginning of where I am right now. Now you served in other jobs, Larry, and the urban director at Youth Initiative. Just give me a quick. And I'm going to mention a few of them. Just give us a quick description of what you did there. The urban director at Youth Frontiers, I know the executive director of Pillsbury. There, let's go in order here.
Yeah,
Urban
yeah.
director at Youth Frontiers. Tell us about
So
their.
I mean, basically, you frontiers do a lot of what do you uh, character education. It was an character education program, and they went into at the time. I mean, the majority of suburban schools, and like you know, my fight around trying to make sure that kids of color have some of the same opportunities that the other kids have. And so my job there was to bring these programs, man, to urban communities. And so I led those efforts around character education. It was an opportunity for me to continue doing some of my motivational speaking and that kind of stuff. And so that was what I did at that particular place, at U Frontiers.
Okay, and then both of us, I know you executive director and charter school liaison at Pillsbury United Communities, and you invited me to
Well,
be a
I
part.
don't know the confusion about. I mean, I'm not the executive director.
Oh,
I
that's
gotta
okay.
take that so that
Okay, well, you're charter
maybe
school
that's been.
liaison. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So with that, I mean, it allows me, Lacey, in this job, and I love the job. And I tell people my real title is to be the voice for the kids in the family who have no voice. And so my job, I get up every morning with the responsibility for 9,500 kids to go to work to make sure that they get a high quality education. And so I am their advocate. I meet with schools around compliance to make sure they're doing the things that they say they're going to do with the resources that they have for our kids. And it aligns with my coaching and everything else. And so I love it. I love it. I'm able to bring my previous. I was, as you well know, again, where our roles, we worked together. I was executive director for a short time at Rice Academy, one of the
Mm-hmm.
original charter schools in
Mm-hmm.
the state of Minnesota. And so taking that experience into the work that I'm doing now, it has helped me tremendously.
And I was going to tell her, you invited me to be a member of your advisory committee there, and I really enjoyed that experience. We both have like a keen interest in education, and we both got some ideas on how we can improve it. So I will be working with you, some other people. I got some other people we're going to get together and see can we come up with some ideas, because I'm just dedicated to trying to close the achievement gap in education, and you and I both believe that our children have everything they need to learn and to perform at grade level, and that's going to be one of our goals. Let's talk a little bit about above the rim, and then we'll talk about some of the education and athletic things that you do as a coach, because I think of all the things you do, I'm just so impressed by that. But above the rim, sports foundation, I think you founded with your wife Pam, and
Yeah,
your
yeah,
wonderful,
yeah.
beautiful wife Pam. Tell us a little bit about that.
So it is a family foundation, small right now, but we see the vision. The work that we want to do is it's around athletics and education. And so, I tell my kids all the time, you either use the game or the game uses you. And so what I want to make sure is we want to use the foundation to provide support. So right now, Lacey, we provide a couple scholarships in honor of my dad. We've got a couple kids that are in college that's been the recipient of that scholarship. We support kids going to camp, other kind of things. We've helped kids with paying for ACT preparation, and some of those other kinds of things is what we do. And so I like to say the Above the Rim Youth Sports Foundation is where athletics meet academics,
Mm,
right? To
mhm.
move forward. And as you said, together, one of the things that you and we Nelson Mandela says, look, that education is the greatest tool, right? To in terms of defeating poverty and all of those other kinds of things.
Yes.
It's a great
Yes.
weapon. And so
Yes.
we want to take athletics and academics and weaponize them for young people to be able to go out into this community and have impact and change their neighborhoods. We want to give them those opportunities. So that's what we do. We got a couple projects that we're working on. Lacey, as you well know, you've helped me as well. The scoreboard project in North High School was one of
Mhm.
those projects, and we've got a couple other things that we're doing that we're probably hopefully have the opportunity to come back on with you later and talk about some of those things. But that's what it is. And so I want it to be uh, a lot of times being a coach, and particularly it comes with the some restrictions. But I've always been a mentor and involved with kids in the community beyond basketball. And so
Mhm.
creating this foundation with my wife, who's also been involved with young women, right, and in terms of mentoring young women. So we wanted to combine and just put our work together. And so, when I'm not on the hardwood, that doesn't stop me from doing the work and trying to impact and change lives.
Wow. So if someone wanted to support Above the Rim, give them your website.
So if you can go to www above the rim youth sports foundation.com. There's information about the organization. There's information about some of the work that we're doing, and you just click on the donate button, and you can contribute to blessing us so that we can continue to be a blessing.
And what I admire a lot about you is that you got a lot of discipline. And I think, tell us a little bit about your team performance in the classroom first. I know that a couple of things that you're good at raising GPAs. I know that I've been at a North High graduation where two of the basketball players were among the top five grade GPAs in the graduating class. One of them might have even been valedictorian, salutatorian. I don't know, but I know just,
Yep,
yep,
it was.
yeah,
Yep, salutatorian. Yep, finished number two.
salutatorian. And so you're able to come in and take these young men and get them to focus on not only basketball, but persuade them the value of just academic performance. How do you go about doing that, and what's the key for other people out there that want to do this?
You know what? Well, Lacey. I mean, and I hate to say this, it's as simple as spending time with those kids and finding out their why. And when I say that is, one of the things that I spent, like, why are you playing basketball? What do you want to get out of this? And kids often respond, I want to be the first one to go to college in my family. I want to become a businessman. I want to do this. I want to do that. So once I understand their why, then the next thing is, okay, let's make a plan. What is it going to take? You want to go to college? What colleges you want to go to? Right? What's the admission requirements? All of those kind of things. So we actually, and I'm proud I got a great staff. We sit down with all of our kids. We get a list of schools, and we help them put together a plan, right, to accomplish their goals. And then I'm able to hold them accountable, because when you're not going to class, when you're not doing the things that you need to do, I simply remind them of their why. Mm-hmm. You're not going to go, if you don't go to class, you don't keep your grades up, you're not going to be able to be the first one in your family to go to college. And so what we've been able to do, Lacey, and I'm telling you, it's a beautiful thing. We got African-American boys competing to be the smartest in their class. And when I was at Henry, I took a team with a 1.6 GPA. I left them with a 3.4 GPA with 5 National Honor Society students. And what I'm most proud of, and I'll challenge anybody to match this. This is my 25th year as a high school basketball coach. And in 25, well, I'm going into 25, but in 24 years, I have 100% of my kids who graduated on time. And I remember when I went to Patrick Henry, the graduation rate for African-American males was 28%. And I always say those kids had a greater chance of going to prison than going to college. We've had 100% graduation on time of African-American boys. I don't need to talk about, obviously it happened my 5 years at the Academy of Holy Angels, right? Mm-hmm. But in an inner city school, 2 inner city schools, 100% graduation, 100% of those kids have gone to a 2-year or 4-year school, with about 33% of those kids over the last 24 years having college degrees. Many of them are now in education themselves.
You are a youth whisperer or something like that. If that's such a word, you can get to kids and affect them. And what's amazing about that to me, Larry, because I know you've had quite a few challenges. I mean, a lot of the young men on the basketball team, they got the one foot in the street also, and to have them graduate on time. And I just know some of the challenges that you had. It's just amazing that you were able to do that. I'm trying to get us within the hour. We just got so much to talk about, but you did mention your coaching staff. And Larry, what's amazed me about your coaching staff, they stay with you. And I know that there's other high schools that want to hire them. Larry, what is it that you're putting in that Kool-Aid to make these coaches want to just stay with Coach McKenzie?
Well, so first of all, I want to go back to the comment around the whisper, Lacey. I always tell people, man, what I've discovered, man, is I've been tapped on the shoulder by the man above, right? God. And so I'm just a vessel that he's chosen to use, right, in this time and space. And so I mean, even with all the accolades, I really want to make sure that I give all honor and credit to the God that I serve, because that's how we've been able to make it happen. I'm amazed at my staff as well. I encourage them every year to go look for opportunities, and there's some great coaches that are being missed out, but they love the work that we do as a
Yeah.
team. They love
Yeah.
the standard and the demands of which we do things, and so and again, man, the sacrifices they make, right?
Yes.
They've given up opportunity to continue to be assistant coaches. But you're right. I mean,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
I mean, Coach Pete has been with me. Um, 22 out of the 24 years, or you know, Coach Mike is, I think this is year 20 for him. Out of 24, I got Trent, who played for me, who's now been with me for almost 11 years. Coach Jackson is, this is 8 years. I mean, yeah, I mean, Brandon Mitchell, my JV coach, who also played for me,
Hmm.
now going into his ninth year. Um, there's probably not another staff that has the kind of connections that we have, because we've
Okay.
been. I mean, we're family. We
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
truly a family.
Now, are we going to be able to attend games in the gym this year? I really missed that
Yep, yep,
last year. Okay,
yep,
good,
yep.
good, good. Uh,
Masks are going to be required. Masks are going to be required, but you will be able to
okay,
attend games. And I see, Lacey, I tell you, we're running up on. Yeah, this is. We haven't even started talking yet, and
right.
and
I know.
we're 50
I'm
minutes.
gonna have part two with you, Coach McKenzie. And I just remember, I talk about my love of high school games. Just your games against Hopkins, both in the North Gym and in the Hopkins Gym, has just been classics, and so I really like that. Let's talk a little bit about uh, what what started you to coaching. What's the reward? You know, what's like, when was your first coaching job? By the way, when was the
So,
first
so
time you
my
coached?
my first coaching job was in the winter of 1981. And here's my true story, Lacey. Um, Clyde Turner.
Hmm.
Clyde was a program manager for Big Brothers, and we had, through basketball, we got connected. When I came out of school, he was like a big brother to me. And so all along, Clyde just kept, you know, soliciting me to become a big brother. And so I tell people, when your big brother 6'7" looking down on you, it's hard to say no. And so I gave in. I became a big brother. I was assigned to a 13-year-old young man with the intention, here it is, with the intention of changing his life, and my life was forever changed.
Uh,
Jules, Jules was a young man. He was walking through his hallway at Ascension Middle School in South Minneapolis. He overheard his principal talking to some people in the building that they were not going to be able to have a basketball program that year because nobody in the building wanted to coach. They did not have a basketball coach. So Jules volunteered his big brother, unbeknownst to me, to
hmm.
become the coach. And
Well,
I I went on to coach that team. We actually went 10-1 that year. I still have the championship ball here. We won the league, and I tell everybody, I had the intention of changing the life of a 13-year-old young man, and that 13-year-old young man changed my life. I fell in love with coaching.
and Larry, I've always known the. Well, first of all, you talked about these young men and plans and stuff, and I just want to say, you've always been a goal setter, and every once in a while, someone will say something, and it'll just become part of me. And I just remember your mantra was, "Plan your work and work your plan," and that never left me. And I see you're still doing that today. So tell me about some challenges. I mean, you've had some. Given the youth that you coach, there have to have been some situation where it was just like, this is tough for me to get through. How did you tell us? How did you handle those type of situations?
Oh, Lacey, I got stories for days. I mean, I actually, I mean, and not afraid to admit it. I mean, so probably 4 or 5 years ago now, just with some of the kids, dealing with coaching, man. I I I had to go and sit down with therapists and that kind of stuff because the kids were bringing so much stuff to me that I was not equipped, right, to handle. And then I was telling people, like, a lot of times kids come to me and looking for help and solutions, and the last thing before they leave or walk out of the office is, but you can't tell my mom, you can't say nothing to my dad. And so, you're trying to help them without uh, what do you call it, violating their trust.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so, for me, Lacey, I just, in all honesty, have to stay uh prayed up. And then I've been, I mean, I don't want people out there, but I've been blessed to have. I tell people I've been blessed uh since I was 19 years old to have people in my life like you and Felton Smith and Reggie Flake. And I say that to say that all the time, and this is where your circle become so important, man. Is like sometimes when you're dealing with challenges and going through things, you'll have people in your life say, let's go get a drink, or let's go smoke some weed, or let's go do some of these other things. I've always had people in my life say, let's pray about it. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? Let's pray about it. And because of that, I've been able to navigate through some of the storms in my life. Man, I mean, and in all honesty, like from the fraternity, and you've always said we're fraternity brothers, but having the Lacey Johnsons, the Emmett Lockleys, the Bobby Evans, the Larry Ellises in my life, right? I mean, to uh to model for me what really being a strong uh African American man, who's unwilling uh to compromise them the morals and the values and those kind of things. I mean, I've been around, so because of that, Lacey, I've been able to get through the storms.
That's great, and I have to. And this, we're gonna have to do a part two because you mentioned Clyde Turner, and I just want to briefly say before Magic Johnson, uh, there was a 6'7" and 6'8" guard named Clyde Turner that played for the University of Minnesota. Team coached by I think Bill Musselman at the time, with Ron Behagen and Jim Brewer and Dave Winfield. Heck of a team, and Clyde has always been out in the community doing great work. And I know you mentioned some of your fraternity brothers that you work with. I know you had a special relationship with late John Cameron. And why don't you just mention that for a while and
Well,
his role in your mentorship?
yeah, yeah. Again, Lacey, when you talk about mentor, and I was trained by the best. I tell people I grew up with my father in my life, but John K. Cameron is somebody who tremendously influenced my life, and I'm a lot of who I am to this day. Having this conversation with you is because of my mentor, John K. Cameron. God bless his soul, may he rest in peace. But um, the story with John is, you know, he did so much for me, and every time I try to take him to lunch, I try to pay for dinner, give him a Father's Day gift, Christmas gift. He never took a gift. And the thing that he would say to me is, Matt, all I want from you is that when the time comes, I want you to allow other people to stand on your shoulder the way that you've stood on mine. And that has resonated with me. That has stayed with me. And I serve these young men because of John K. Cameron. It is, and really, coaching and the way that I coach and what I do is the only way that I could ever repay him, because that's what he asked from me. He asked for me to allow people to stand on my shoulder the way that I stood on his. And Lord knows, 200 plus pounds stood on his shoulders of many a days.
And John Cameron was like that for all of us. And I tell everyone, uh, I'm standing on the shoulders of the generation before me, and John Cameron was one of them, one of the people that raised us. And that I want to give the next generation my shoulders to stand on, and that's why you and I are out here trying to do the things we're doing. And we're not putting ourselves first. We're putting the people we're trying to help first, and just leave some shoulders for them. Uh, so what are, if you could think of, and you won 6 state championships, and you've had the NAACP, and our audience should know that you're known all over the country. and you've done speaking internationally also. But when you look back right now that it's over, Larry, uh, over the years as coaching and being involved in the community, can you think of one rewarding moment that may stand out over all the rest? I know this might be a tough one because you got a lot of good things you've gotten done.
No, I mean I really can't. There's been so many rewarding minutes that I don't think I could single out
Yeah.
any one particular thing at all.
Right, right,
There's just been so many blessings in my life. I mean, individuals, the opportunity to, as you said, to travel the world. I mean, the magical moment probably goes back to Jules
right.
volunteering me to
Hmm.
become, a coach because that changed my life.
Yeah, we got to get off here and do part two. But here's the thing, to our audience, I've seen the sacrifice, you being a taxi. We went to the ABCD camp out in Jersey one time, and just to see what coaches do for these children, young men, and the fact that a lot of them you're the surrogate dad for, and in fact, besides, especially with inner city youth, male teenagers from a single parent home, coaches are the most important, one of the most important person in their lives. And going back to the hospitality house, you may recall I coached a 15-year-old one game in Cleveland, and I could see why once a coach, always a coach. But Larry, you must not have been happy with my performance because that was my only coaching.
Well, listen,
I think you must have fired me after that one, Larry.
nah, you more valuable as my program director. Yeah, and
Okay.
so, but no, I remember that. I mean,
Yeah.
and again, I mean, so many. I mean, Lacey, you just, man, so many great memories, and I see that we are
Yeah.
actually
Yeah, we got to
a
get out a
little
little
past
over.
time here, but yeah, you know what? I don't remember. I don't think I made the Cleveland trip, so I
Yeah,
didn't have
I think you were because we took the bus down to Cleveland, and
right.
the coach for the 15-year-old wasn't there. And I just remember I got a technical for jumping up off the
That's
bench,
yeah,
and yeah.
yeah. And I think when you got back, I was like, Lacey, we can't have that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. So
Okay,
yeah.
so Larry, let's wrap it up. We're about achievement here, which is what our fraternity is about, Kappa Alpha Psi. And we didn't even get into your work there. You're being a North Central Province pole mark, the respect that you have within the fraternity, especially here locally, the work that you put in. But once again, we're running kind of over time, and I have to have you on again. But achievement. We're about achievement. And I always like to leave our youth with a positive message. And look, you know me, I believe we can be anything we want to be. And according to how much we're willing to sacrifice, but leave our audience with just a positive message, especially when you think about our youth. What do you tell the young people out there they need to do when they start talking about how unfair life is and all the obstacles they have to overcome? What is it? What type of advice do you give the young people that you coach?
So one of the things that I tell my young men, no matter what your situation is in life right now, you're not the first and you won't be the last. And I personally don't believe in possibilities. Um, I believe that it will be things will be challenging. You'll have roadblocks, but it depends on how hungry you are, how bad you want it, right? And if you want it bad enough, then nobody can stop you but you. And even before Nike, so if this is something that you want to do, let's just do it.
Yeah.
But you have to, you're not the first one in your family. You're not the first one that I've met that didn't know his dad. You're not the first one that I know that lived off food stamps. You're not the first one that I know that been homeless. So grandma used to say there's nothing new under the sun. So
Right.
let's stop feeling sorry for yourself. Let's come up with a plan to change your life. And if you want to do that, it's possible.
Okay. Well, keep up the great work, Coach. This has been good. I'm going to bring you on for a follow up. Good luck on your trip to Sioux Falls this year. You can count on me and Betty to be at the games and support you again this year. I'm just looking forward to it and the excitement. And just keep up the great work. You and I have talked about getting getting to the root causes of some of these issues faced in our community. You and I have talked about the importance, and we talked about it today, of faith and having a faith. In fact, I don't know how other people do it, man. I
Me
really
neither.
don't.
Me
I
neither.
don't know how you go through life without faith, but that's just me. We talked about education, and we both been involved in the education of our young people, and we both have seen great results. So that's another thing. So faith, education, then economic development. We both worked on that, and we're continuing to work. You're a partner with me on some economic development things right now, and then just rebuilding the family. And I hope our audience see that Coach McKenzie just believe in family and taking care of his children and supporting them and setting good examples. So if we do those type of things, I think eventually we're going to get to the root cause of some of these issues and stop having to apply band-aids to them. So, Coach, good luck. I think you got practice this evening.
Yeah, I'm running right
One of
out.
these days, I'll stop into another one of your practice, and we'll get your kids out for some chess teaching and lessons and things later on this year, and I'm looking forward to it. Oh, one more thing, just before you go, I hate to do it. North High School, I understand, is being renovated. Can you just fill our audience in on that? And I know the Minneapolis public, what you know about that, the Minneapolis public schools, there's a desegregation plan going on where some children from some of the richer communities, Kenwood and place, is going to be
Yeah,
attending
yeah.
North. What's going on
So
there?
it's Minneapolis CDD plan in Lacey. We really don't even have, that's a whole show by itself, right?
Okay.
And so it's
Okay.
kind of reverse integration, and they are adding. So they're adding, they're renovating the school, but they're
Hmm.
adding another school into the school.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot to it. So
Dang.
there'll be two schools really in one building. The CTE school, which would be a technology kind of a deal for within the school, but it'll be a separate school with its own principal and all of those kind of things. And
Okay.
like I say, that's a whole, and that is an effort to get kids from Kenwood and some of the other uh, richer communities to enroll and attend school over north. And so a
Okay.
lot of discussions about the benefit of that and who will benefit from that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's talk about that a little bit, because I know it can get intricate there, but it's a good place to end it, because we started out talking about when you started coaching at North High School, they were ready to shut the school down. And now we're talking about this big expansion and doing a lot of great things. And where I'm going to end it at is I think you had a lot to do with this, and the schools remaining open and things like that. And this is some of the fruits of your labor. So I know you got to go have your practice. I'll talk to you when you get back from Sioux Falls. Coach McKenzie, keep up the great work. And I'm I'm proud of your admiration society. So keep it up.
Appreciate it, Lacey. Thank you for having me. And to all of the folks out there, I'm just going to end with this. Continue to let your light shine brightly. Have bright lights.
I love that, Larry. And he did that all on his own. See you later, Larry. Thanks a
See
lot.
you later. Yes,
Have
sir.
a good evening. Say hi to Pam for me.
Will do.